From shoving quarters into a machine that played 3 beeps and a rectangle, to walking through photorealistic worlds with millions of other players at the same time. These are every era of gaming explained. But to understand how we got from beep boop to 8K ray tracing, you have to start in a time when gaming wasn't even in your house.
Era 1, the arcade era. Picture this, it's 1978. You're standing in a dimly lit room full of cabinets the size of refrigerators. The carpet smells like spilled soda and regret. And everyone, I mean everyone, is gathered around one machine. Space Invaders! This was the arcade era. You didn't own games, you rented them 25 cents at a time. Pong kicked it off in 1972. 2 lines, 1 dot, and somehow people lost their minds. It was like tennis if tennis was played by rectangles with no personality. Then came the heavy hitters. Pac-Man in 1980. Finally, a protagonist shaped like a pizza missing a slice, eating dots while being hunted by ghosts, and we loved it. There was a Pac-Man cereal, a Pac-Man cartoon, a Pac-Man song that charted on Billboard. Let that sink in. A song about a yellow circle eating pellets was a legitimate hit. Donkey Kong in 1981 gave us Mario, except he was called Jumpman, had no mustache origin story yet, and was just a carpenter trying to rescue his girlfriend from a gorilla. Relatable. The arcade era was loud, cabinets everywhere, the clack of joysticks, the clink of tokens, rows of kids with no money left, just watching other kids play, waiting for someone to die so they could finally get a turn. And then, in 1983, it all crashed. Too many bad games, too many consoles nobody asked for, and one spectacular disaster called E.T. for the Atari 2600. They buried millions of unsold copies in a New Mexico landfill. Actual gaming history, buried in the desert like it committed a crime.
Era 2, the 8-bit home console era. The arcade crash should have killed gaming, but Nintendo walked into North America in 1985 like, we'll take it from here. The Nintendo Entertainment System didn't look like a toy. It looked like a VCR. That was intentional. They called cartridges game packs. They included a robot, a little plastic buddy, just so parents would think, oh, it's not a game console, it's a robot thing? And then they dropped Super Mario Brothers, a little plumber running right, jumping on turtles, going down pipes, finding secret blocks. It was simple, it was colorful, and it was crack for children. This era gave us The Legend of Zelda, the first game where you could save your progress. Before this, finishing a game meant leaving the console on for 3 days and praying nobody unplugged it. Metroid introduced Samus, and the ending revealed she was a woman, which blew minds in 1986 because gaming was basically a boys' club with a treehouse sign that said, "No girls allowed." The graphics, 8 bits. That's 256 possible colors, but most games used maybe 16. Everything looked like it was made of tiny squares. Mario's face was like 12 pixels, but your brain filled in the gaps. That pixel blob? That's a fearsome dragon! Respect it! Era 3, the 16-bit console wars. Sega looked at Nintendo's kingdom and said, we can be the cool one. Enter the Sega Genesis. Faster, edgier, a black console with attitude. Their slogan? Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Grammar crimes aside, it worked. Sonic the Hedgehog was the anti-Mario. He was fast, he was blue, he had an attitude. He tapped his foot if you stopped playing, basically sassing you for being slow. Mario waited patiently. Sonic called you out. Nintendo fired back with the Super Nintendo. Mode 7 graphics could rotate and scale the entire screen. F-Zero made it look like you were racing into the screen. Super Mario Kart created an entire genre. Street Fighter 2 came to console, and suddenly every sleepover had at least one kid who knew all the moves and absolutely did not. The console war was vicious. School lunch tables were divided. You were either Team Mario or Team Sonic. There was no Switzerland. Meanwhile, the Game Boy was quietly dominating portable gaming. 4 shades of greenish gray. No backlight. You had to tilt it toward a lamp like you were reading ancient scrolls. And yet, Tetris sold 35 million copies. A game about organizing falling blocks. Simpler times.
Era 4, the 3D revolution. Everything changed in 1995, and I mean
everything. Sony dropped the PlayStation. Sega had passed on partnering with them, one of the biggest fumbles in business history, and Sony said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. The PlayStation used CDs instead of cartridges, cheaper to produce, more storage. Games could now have actual music, voice acting, cutscenes. Final Fantasy VII in 1997 wasn't just a game, it was a movie you played. People cried when Aerith died. Grown adults over polygons that looked like action figures made of folded paper. Nintendo countered with the N64. No CDs, still cartridges, but they had Super Mario 64. The first time you could run around Mario in full 3D. Grab him by the face, spin him, throw him. The analog stick let you walk in any direction, not just 8. It felt like the future. Then GoldenEye 007 invented the multiplayer FPS sleepover. 4 players, split screen. You could look at your friend's screen to see where they were hiding. Screen peeking, the original esports crime. On PC, Doom and Quake were pushing 3D acceleration. Half-Life in 1998 proved first-person games could tell stories without cutscenes. Gordon Freeman never spoke a word, and he's more iconic than any protagonist with dialogue. Also in 1996, Pokemon Red and Blue landed. 151 creatures, 2 versions, a link cable, and suddenly every kid on Earth became a wildlife trafficker with a backpack full of monsters.
Era 5, the online multiplayer era. Gaming stopped being something you did alone in a dark room. It became something you did with strangers who would absolutely insult your mother. Microsoft launched Xbox Live in 2002. Suddenly you could plug your console into the internet, put on a headset, and immediately hear a 12-year-old from Ohio tell you you're trash. Revolutionary. Halo 2 was the game. Online lobbies, voice chat, matchmaking that actually worked. People made friends. People made enemies. People learned creative new combinations of curse words. On PC, World of Warcraft launched in 2004 and consumed millions of lives. It wasn't a game, it was a second job. Raiding schedules, guild drama. People met in Azeroth and got married in real life. People also got divorced in real life because of too much Azeroth. The duality of man. Broadband internet spread. LAN parties started dying. You no longer had to physically carry your massive CRT monitor to a friend's garage. Instead, you just logged on at 2 a.m. and got destroyed by someone in South Korea who hadn't slept in 3 days. This era also birthed YouTube gaming content. Early machinima, red versus blue using Halo footage, bad webcam face cams, video game commentary recorded on a rock band microphone. Humble beginnings.
Era 6, the HD era and the motion control experiment. Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii. 3 completely different philosophies fighting for your living room. The 360 launched in 2005. Gears of War made everything brown and gray and chunky in the best way. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare in 2007 changed first-person shooters forever. Loadouts, prestige, kill streaks. Suddenly, every November, a new COD arrived like an annual holiday dedicated to making you stay up until 4 a.m. Xbox Live Arcade brought small, downloadable games. Braid, Castle Crashers, Geometry Wars. Indie games found a home on console. Then Nintendo said, what if you had to physically move? The Wii launched in 2006 and sold over 100 million units. Grandmas were bowling. Dads were playing tennis in their living room and accidentally throwing controllers into TVs. The Wii remote strap was introduced, then reinforced because people kept launching controllers through Windows. A legitimate safety recall over remote-controlled chaos. Wii Sports might be the most important video game ever made. Not the best, but it made gaming universal. Everyone could play. Your mom understood Wii bowling. She couldn't play Halo, but bowling? That's just our movement. She's been bowling at birthday parties since 1978. The PS3 struggled. $599, giant enemy crabs. But it had Uncharted, The Last of Us, Blu-ray built in. By the end of the generation, it caught up. Barely.
Era 7, the open world and indie explosion. 2 things defined this era. Worlds that got stupidly big and games made by like 3 people that somehow changed everything. Skyrim in 2011. You could go anywhere, do anything, be anyone. And somehow every player ended up as a stealth archer. Every single time. You start as a mage, you end as a sneaky bow person. It's a law of nature. Grand Theft Auto 5 launched in 2013 and is still selling. 3 console generations, over 200 million copies. At this point, GTA 5 is just a permanent fixture of reality. It will outlive us all. GTA 6 will arrive approximately when the sun burns out. Then the indies. Minecraft wasn't supposed to be big. It was one guy in Sweden making a block game. It became the best-selling game of all time. A generation of kids learned crafting recipes before multiplication tables. Undertale was made basically by one person and made people cry over a skeleton. Stardew Valley. One guy rebuilt farming sims from scratch because he was mad Harvest Moon got bad. Hollow Knight. 3 people made a game so massive and beautiful that people are still losing their minds waiting for the sequel. Indie games proved you didn't need 500 developers and $100 million. You just needed a good idea and absolute soul-crushing dedication.
Era 8, the Battle Royale and free-to-play era. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds dropped in 2017. 100 players, one map, last one standing wins. It was janky, it was buggy, it ran at about 12 frames per second on console, and it took over the world. Then Fortnite arrived and said, what if PUBG? But also, you can build a 5-star hotel in 0.3 seconds while someone shoots at you? Fortnite wasn't just a game. It was a cultural event. Marshmallow concerts, Star Wars events, Travis Scott turning into a giant and performing while millions watched. Kids were doing emotes in real life, flossing, take the L, the Orange Justice dance at school dances. Teachers were confused. Parents were horrified. Epic Games was printing money. Free-to-play became the model. Games cost nothing to download but had battle passes, skins, cosmetics. Apex Legends launched with zero marketing, just a tweet, and got 25 million players in a week. Warzone brought Call of Duty into the BR space, and suddenly everyone knew what the gulag meant. This era also gave us Among Us, a game about colorful beings murdering each other that blew up during lockdown because we were all trapped inside and desperately needed to accuse our friends of being imposters. Emergency meeting, red sus, words that became universal language.
Era 9, the modern era. And here we are. Crossplay is finally normal. Your friend on PlayStation can play with your other friend on Xbox, PC, and Switch. It took 30 years of console wars, but peace was achieved through the shared desire to lose at Fortnite together. Cloud gaming exists. You can stream AAA titles to your phone. It's not perfect. Sometimes it looks like a YouTube video buffering in 2007, but the fact that it works at all is insane. AI is creeping in, NPCs that actually react like real people instead of repeating the same 3 lines forever. Graphics are approaching photorealism. Cyberpunk 2017 launched as a disaster and then became good? The redemption arc nobody expected. Indie gaming is bigger than ever. AAA gaming is bigger than ever. Esports fills stadiums. Prize pools hit $40 million. A 16-year-old can become a millionaire by being really good at clicking heads.
From 2 rectangles bouncing a dot to worlds so real you forget you're holding a controller, gaming has come further in 50 years than most industries do in 500. And the wildest part, we're still in the tutorial. Drop a comment. What gaming era did you start in? And if you say Fortnite, I feel old. I won't judge. Actually, I will a little. Subscribe for more.